Hello and welcome to Nerdscapades. I'm Jess.
And I'm Matt.
And if you didn't already know, on this channel we cover all things nerdy. We're just kind of making our way through relevant things. And this series is the Silmarillion Explained. Please go watch the first two videos if you haven't already, because it really does... Probably over here. Yeah. Because it really does build into itself so much. And goodness, even though we're doing it incrementally, I feel like I have to backtrack a whole lot, because if I don't, things don't make sense. It's like you set the stage and then you think you know stuff and it's like, oh, but wait, let's go back.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're doing for this week's episode. We are going into what is actually not the third chapter of the Silmarillion, but the third section of the first chapter of the Silmarillion.
Okay.
Way to go, me. Mislabeling things. This whole thing should still be 22 episodes long, don't worry. But they're so long that I guess my mind, I just was like, oh, another chapter. No. There's subsections of the same chapter. That sounds good. But anyways, we do have to kind of backtrack.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you've all already seen our first two videos covering the Silmarillion. Again, if you haven't, go do that, please. Because this is already painful enough for me as it is. If you don't understand what I'm saying, it's just going to be so much worse. So, with that being said, we've kind of established creation, and we've kind of, topographically, right? Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Topographically, we've established Middle Earth and Aman and the seas. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that is not until later, a little bit later. The world changes as you have these things going on between Melkor, later Morgoth, and the other Valar. And this battle between good and evil. Things get destroyed like so many times, which I alluded to before. But I have been keeping it strictly, this is what this section is saying, this is what this section is saying, and this is what this section says. So, now that we've gone through the first two, we're going to go back.
Okay.
We're not going literally back, but the third section takes us back to the first stage.
Okay.
So when we talk
Nice.
Middle Earth and Aman, we're kind of talking in time, but not necessarily like first age. How did Arda look in the very beginning of time, before destruction happened and before the land was changed and everything like that? Okay, it's almost like tectonics,
Mm-hmm.
but not really.
It's like Pangea, and then...
Yeah, pretty... Oh. Yeah, kind of. Or it sort of. I need to get like maps of Arda through different periods of time, and I feel like I'd have like 10 of them probably.
That'd be cool.
It really would. It would be a nice background. It would be really awesome, and no one would know what it was, but I would. Alright, so taking it back.
Mm-hmm.
Before Arda was how it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
You were having all of this trouble between Melkor and the other Valar and Valir,
Mm-hmm.
and things weren't good. And I had alluded to a little bit in my descriptions of the different Valar, Tulkas, who was the equivalent of like Ares, sort of, except he's got a crazy sense of humor. And he was the last Valar to come into Arda.
Okay, yeah.
So he stayed behind and then came in to kind of fight the battle and everything. And, I mean, he terrifies Melkor pretty much. He and Aule... Aule's the craftsman. Okay. They keep him at bay, and of course Manwë too, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot, but predominantly he's afraid of Melkor's afraid of Aule and Tulkas. And he actually retreats out of Arda entirely. So later I talk about how he's in the Iron Mountains, but first he retreats outside of the world entirely, and he's looking upon it. And there's kind of this time of peace and prosperity where they've done a whole lot. Yavanna, Aule's wife, the one in charge of like growth and stuff, she plants seeds, and you see things sprouting and everything except for flowers and birds. So you have beasts, kind, happy beasts. It's almost Christian in a sense where you have this period of time where everything's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And no animal fears another, there's no violence, there's no pain, there's no sickness. And then what happens is Aule, in order to allow this stuff to grow, crafts for his wife, or his spouse, 2 lamps. There's Iluin, and then there's Amal.
Okay.
Iluin is the northern lamp, and these are huge. Okay, they're like massive.
Like
they light up
lights?
the whole world.
Ooh.
No, like constantly. So there's a constant daytime.
Oh.
The north is lit by Iluin,
That's cool.
And the south is lit by Elmermal. And in the middle is the bright, almost like the equator. In the middle is the brightest of the world, and so you have the most lush area there, and the most like sunshine and pretty things.
And that's the Middle Earth.
No. No. Again, Middle Earth is the area where men exist.
Mm-hmm.
We are not yet to the point in time where men exist.
Okay.
We're just talking about the world as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So Aule crafts these 2 lamps. And Vanna, being the one who situated stars, like the queen of the Valor.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, root beer. She puts light into them,
Mm-hmm.
and Manwë like hollows them or something. Like, is it hallowed or is it hollowed? I don't know. I think he opens them up.
Like he makes their insides a hole, or does he make them holy?
I know the difference. I'm just not sure what it is. I just know he does a thing like that. I need to look at the spelling of the word.
Okay.
If it has an A, he makes it holy. If it has an O, he hollows it out.
Yes.
I know that. I just
Can't remember which one it is.
I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of them. And so anyway, you have this continuous state.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to my next note page because I don't want to forget anything. Okay, so in this continuous state, you have everything's great. Tulkas and Aule are super exhausted, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are the ones that have kept Melkor at bay this entire time. They've been super busy, so they're just dead tired.
Mm-hmm.
But in the midst of what they call the spring like the season, in this time, it's like the spring of history. It was beautiful, perfect. Everything was new and fresh. Tulkas, as you might remember, he was with Nessa, the other most lowly Valir female.
Yes.
And so this is actually when they get married. And they have this big party. And Melkor is obviously super jealous. He's always jealous. He's kind of annoying that way. Every other line in the Silmarillion so far is about how, oh, he's super jealous about this. Like, he's just constantly jealous. But anyways, at the end of their kind of party that they have, Tulkas is satisfied, it says, and sleepy. I don't know. I don't know. We'll leave it there. But he's like resting. Mm-hmm. And Melkor, because the world is so bright, so flippin' blinding at this point in time, he can actually... So Melkor, just to reestablish, is dark. Like, he is darkness itself. Like, he doesn't have to be a person, he doesn't have to be a thing, but he is darkness. Like, blackness. He casts a shadow on Arda. Like, literally.
Oh, wow.
Like,
that's crazy.
So anyways, because it's so flippin' bright, he actually can just like slide on in to northern Arda without anybody knowing it. And it's not until the earth starts rotting and spreading that rot towards where the Valar are located that they realize, oh god, he's back. Which is kind of weird. So it actually says that the green fell sick, rotted, it was rank, it was poisonous. There was breeding grounds for flies. There was lots of fear. The beasts turned into monsters with horns and made blood all over the land. And while this is kind of descending into Arda, he is staying in what we refer to as Autumno. Autumno. I don't know how to say this word, but it's a place.
Okay.
Deep underground.
All the way.
Like they can't. Like they can't reach him. Like they can't find him. They don't know exactly where he is. They can't reach him. He's found the perfect fortress for himself. And he hears, he hears Tulkas. You know, these are beings that are like massive when they want to be. And so when they're like stomping around the planet and stuff, it's like super loud, rumbling. But also, possibly not, I guess. They could still be in their small people forms, but then since they're divine beings, maybe they can still hear the other one rumbling around on the earth. I don't know. But, whatever. Melkor can actually hear Tulkas coming for him, and Manwë coming for him.
Man.
And he just retreats further and further. They never find him. And instead of finding him, they basically have to use all of their power to prevent the world from totally falling into, like, complete chaos. So they don't necessarily have the energy to go after him anymore.
Man.
He decides before they can reach him to cast the first blow in this war that he is doing. And what he does is he destroys the lamps.
So then it's just darkness?
Essentially, yes.
Man. Rude.
Now, this is not in the Silmarillion, at least at this point in time. I just happened upon information. But supposedly, in Tolkien's earlier versions of what's it called? Whatever. In his earlier versions, not of the Silmarillion, but of, there's another word in my mind, but whatever. Legendarium, in general, because Christopher Tolkien put together the Silmarillion, not Tolkien. In his earlier versions of his Legendarium, he actually had the Valar go to Melkor after he had destroyed the lamps and tried to make peace with him. And they said, if you fix this mess you've made, we'll be good. But he's still jealous and angry, of course. So what he does is he promises to give them a strong material as to fix the lamps, but as like a gift, right? What do you think he might give them? Because he's a butthole.
Rings.
No. I could slap you. No. He gives them ice.
Oh, that's rude.
He gives them ice. He's like, here's this really strong material that you guys don't yet know about or have. Here's ice. You can build your lampposts on that. Well, okay. So he does that. And they're like, oh, we love you again. What do you think happens to ice when you put 2 suns on it?
Guess it melts.
It melts and they broke again.
Rude.
I know, and so then it just takes you back to the same issue. So I don't know if that's why Christopher Tolkien didn't include that information, but that's in there somewhere. Okay. Now, there's also another thing that I stumbled upon about Autumno, or the place that Melkor is hiding. A lot of people were wondering if that is, oh my god. I'm in a bad way right now. Mordor. They're wondering if that's Mordor. Or if it has any relation to Mordor. Is it better or worse than Mordor? Just give us more information about that. So basically, at the end of the First Age, there is a war that takes place, and we haven't gotten there yet. And I don't know how we're going to get there necessarily, but pretty much, topographically, I just totally elbowed him. Topographically, there is an area, like a whole continent, like this. And Autumno is it's like over here. Okay. It's like a big section.
Yeah.
And he's underground. But after this war happens, Autumno gets buried.
Okay.
Underwater, and it's never seen again. So no, it is not Mordor. And it was probably, since it's probably like the equivalent to hell, it was probably far, far, far worse than Mordor. And actually, interesting fact, that is where, before they destroyed it, things were able to escape from it.
Ooh.
Just like a few things. And I believe that is where the Balrog came from that Gandalf took down. And I don't know if I've said this yet, but Balrogs are Maiar, I think I did, Maiar that have gone to the dark side, that have joined Melkor's forces and later Sauron's forces. Sauron is kind of a Balrog, I guess. Kind of. He just is.
I guess, yeah.
He's a Maiar that turned bad, and they said that the Maiar that turned bad are Balrogs. But I don't know for sure. He definitely takes a different form in the movies. I'm going to look into that some more because I'm wondering if that's his true. Because then that also might be why they depicted his eye as like a fiery thing.
Yeah.
Which we talked about last episode a little bit. But I digress anyways. Different things I need to explore. But yeah, it was far worse. It is not Mordor. And that's where Balrogs came from. It is the epitome of evil. And death and dying and horrible things that come with Melkor. All right. Now we're almost halfway there. Okay. So after he destroys the lamps, that is the end of the Spring of Arda.
Okay.
And basically things are so bad and the Valar cannot overcome them. So they go west. They go through the ocean over to Aman, I believe. So before he took down the lamps, there was an island essentially where the Valar lived, and around that island was water, and then everything else that they made. It was perfect, beautiful, awesome. It was called the Isle of Almarion, I believe, and that takes us to the next one. So they go from this destroyed isle surrounded by destruction and everything. And they go far, far, far west to Aman, where it was quite literally no man's land, right? Like, elves can be there, but men cannot. And they go to a place that later becomes known most commonly as Valinor. It is a holy land. Like, it is far more beautiful than their original creation because it is this smaller space that they spend lots and lots of time working on. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely perfect. It's like heaven, pretty much. And they build these, they don't build them, they construct or bring into existence these massive mountains that they call the Pelori, or Pelori, whatever, as like a wall, essentially. And they most of them no longer give anything to the rest of the world physically, but they do watch over it.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, they can see Middle Earth, and they can see everything east from where they're at.
They just
out
can't.
west. They could if they wanted to, but they just don't physically go there very much. There are a couple that do. We'll get into that in a minute. But that's kind of where it is at that point in time. And with that, we see, so even farther, so you get to this place, this, what did I say it's called? Sorry.
Pelori?
No, that's the wall. They get to Valinor. Oh my god.
Yes.
I'm an idiot. So they're in Valinor now, way over here. And on the even farther west end of Valinor, by the gates on that side, there's a hill. And I'm going to try to say it correctly, but it's Corolera, I believe. And that is basically a hill where Yavanna, the queen of, like, Mother Nature, essentially, sits down and she plants these 2 trees. One of them is commonly called Telperion, or Silpion, or Ninquelote. And the other one is called Laurelin, Malinata, or Calurian. I don't know how to say that word. But, you know, there are 2 trees. So the first one, Telperion, is a dark green leafy one. The underside of the leaves are silver, and the flowers drip silver dew onto the ground.
Man.
And they light up. Okay.
It's a nice tree.
It is a very nice tree. And then the other one, Laurelin, I believe, has a light green, kind of sapling green color. The edges of these leaves, instead of the underside, the edges are glittering gold. They have bright yellow, flame-like clusters of flowers that have a golden kind of horn on them that drips gold onto the ground. And this one emits even more light.
Nifty.
So they observe, I'm not going to go into it too much because it's kind of excessive, I think, but these are basically lit up at different times.
Okay.
So the one
Like
is lit
day
up.
and night.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So one lights up for a period of time, and then right at the end of this period of time, the 7 hours that this is going to go up, there's like an hour where they're lit at the same time. And then the other one takes over. And it's like it turns into like a 12 to 14 hour thing or something. But that's how they established time. That was like the first known time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's how time started. Or how they started measuring it. So time starts to go on, and Aule is crafting, and he's coming up with all kinds of skills and knowledge, and eventually the children of Iluvatar they're well on their way. He ends up being a friend of the Noldor. These are skilled elves. They are good at crafting and art and all sorts of different things, but they actually create the Silmarillions, which are stones. They're gemstones.
That's cool.
So we'll probably hear a lot more about that later. But they craft the Silmarillions, the Silmarils. Silmarils, yes, not the Silmarillions. Oh my god, I'm tired, it's late.
Just wanted to make a quick note that the 3 Silmarils do come up again later on. However, one of them actually turns up in The Hobbit. It is the Arkenstone, and that is why the elves in The Hobbit end up kind of fighting for it and wanting it and being kind of protective over it. But that is the only one that doesn't remain lost until the end of time, although there are more stories coming.
But the Silmarils are the gems that they craft. And they're lost. But yes, Aule's like super involved. Then there's Ulmo, basically Poseidon again. He, because of his job and how he is in general, being everywhere all the time, he was actually the reason that Middle-earth and the rest of things east were kept surviving because of water. And so he's very much invested and involved in the doings of men and things. Yavanna actually goes to Middle-earth quite frequently to heal the foliage a little bit.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. Isn't that sweet? Do you have any questions yet?
Nope. It's just a lot of info.
It's always so much info. Even for me, it's what I can only read like a half a day. I do one half, then I do the other half, then I do research in like 3 different days, and I don't always get them consecutively.
And that actually pay attention to
It's
what's
incredible.
canon and what's not canon. But
Oh, I am, yes. So far I haven't spoken about anything that hasn't been based in reality.
that's good.
Tolkien's reality. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit interesting again, and I might go on a rabbit hole, down a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a Romain. He was the hunter of the Valar.
Yes.
Okay, he also goes to Middle-earth quite a lot, and he tames beasts.
Mm-hmm.
He pursues the foul creatures, and he has a white, glistening, beautiful, like sunlight horse
Oh, that's cool.
named Nahar.
Hmm.
Does that ring any bells for you? Shadowfax, come on, for the love of God. Gandalf's horse?
That. Oh, yeah.
That's not his horse, but it doesn't even ring a bell.
Well, I'm starting to connect the dots.
Shame, we're so tired. Shame on you. Yay! I forget the horse. The horse. Okay. But his horse like literally lights up the areas around him and eliminates shadows. So like it's insane.
It is pretty nifty.
Now, I was expecting him to be like way more excited about this horse. So, because I was excited about this horse. I read this and I was like, oh my god, is that Shadowfax? And so I had to do some digging, and I'm not just going to let that go by the wayside. Even though I was really hoping that you would be like, is that Shadowfax? And I'd be like, no, let me tell you about it.
Oh.
But no.
I didn't know that his horse had a name.
Nahar. Oh, Gandalf's?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Yeah. So you judge me all the time, but I judge him back. This is the stuff you need to know. Okay. So people wonder, like, what is that? Well, I wondered. Anyways. Cool fact. Okay. So there is a breed of perfect horses. Like, they're super strong, they're super fast, and they're super, super, super intelligent. And these are called the Meras. It almost sounds like mares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably why. I just thought about that too. But anyways, Meras, or whatever. And it is thought that, okay. There was a horse tamer, and I forget his name, but he was like really well known. And he came upon a horse, a Meras type horse, named Felaroth or something like that. Now he's like, I'm gonna tame this beautiful horse. I'm gonna break this horse. So he gets on the horse, and the horse like kills him. Horse like, I'm not getting tamed. You dead. Like, get off me. And this horse tamer's son, I don't know how to say his name very well, but it's Eorl. I keep wanting to say Earl.
Earl.
But it's like Eorl.
Eorl. Coral.
Eorl.
Coral.
I don't know how to say it. But he finds that he hunts down this freaking horse. And he's like, I'm surprised he didn't kill it. But he talks to this horse, and this horse understands men.
Man.
Like, he understands what they're saying, but he can't talk back. He's a smart horse. So this guy finds this horse that killed his father, and he's like, yo, you're supposed to be a valiant creature. You're supposed to be awesome, and you murdered my daddy. So you're going to serve me forever. And Felaroth is like, all right, man. Nay, that sounds good. He doesn't say nay. No, he goes, yay. I will serve you. And that sounds fair. I'm sorry. Right? So, okay. Now, Eorl, whatever, and Felaroth, a horse, beautiful white horse, I believe, help in one of Gondor's wars. They come to Gondor's rescue. Now, after defeating their enemies, Gondor is super grateful, so they give Eorl and his people, and his horse, land. This land later becomes Rohan.
Oh.
Okay. Now, people think, I'm pretty darn sure that Shadowfax is not Nahar, but is a descendant of that line of horses.
That'd be cool.
Like, amazing horses, very intelligent, incredible horses. So you had Nahar, who bred with other Meras, who then had other horses like Phalarolf, who then founded a new land like Rohan, and then had probably a horsey called Shadowfax at some point. But it is definitely paying respect to the legendarium, for sure. It's incredible. The topography changes just like actual land does. The genealogy of different species does. I mean, it's amazing.
That's pretty thorough.
Do you feel like I'm informing you?
Yeah.
I hope so. I feel like I'm not doing enough at all. I feel like I like find out a couple cool facts and I throw it in here, but there's so many.
I mean, I think
so
we
many
would
more.
have to hold a doctoral degree to actually know everything.
I'd be down if I had the money and the resources. I want to learn how to speak these different languages. I think about that all the time, and then your brother actually sent me a TikTok about it, and I was like, yeah, I want to be that person. Okay, but anyways. Okay. Okay, we did that already, and okay. Now, at the end of this third section of the first chapter, which I'm so sorry, been telling you this chapter 3, we're still making the same progress. It's just, it feels like we're not. Talks about kind of the segregation between elves and men a little bit. So the Ainu are most like the elves, or the elves are most like the Ainu, or the Valar. They're closer to them. And have a better relationship, which makes sense because we see that they can be in Aman and be around them, and men cannot, which is interesting. But Iluvatar, after all the Valar leave, well, all the good ones leave, and come to Arda, is sitting alone by himself, and he's thinking about it, and he's just like, I feel like he favors men. Even though it doesn't feel like it. But anyway, he's basically like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give men special gifts. So you have the Kendi, I believe is, those are the elves. Okay, and then you have the Atani, and those are the men.
Okay.
So the elves have this fairness about them, this peace, this bliss. They get to live forever unless somebody kills them, or they essentially die from grief, like broken heart. And that is the only way elves die.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's why the elves live like forever in Lord of the Rings, and then that's why she was like, her father, I think, was afraid of her dying from her grief about Aragorn. Whatever.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Their afterlife is unknown. The Valar never heard from Iluvatar what their plan is, if they have one, for afterlife. So it's possible they don't get an afterlife. They get to live forever until they're killed or die from grief.
I don't know which one would be better.
Right. But as I said, it's almost as if Iluvatar favors men. So he gives them this drive, this internal motivation, this drive, this, what would you call that? There's a word.
Gumption.
Gumption. I like that. He gives them gumption. And they go, and he says that the world is basically theirs to mold.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, they get to mold the world. And actually, he gives them death as a gift.
Nice.
He gives them death as a gift. He's like, you know what? You don't have to live through every single thing. After doing all these things, you get to go to an afterlife. Like, you get to rest and have perfect existence. Like, all this stuff. But elves don't like men because this drive, this gusto, this, what is it? Gumption makes them the most like Melkor.
Oh.
Their greed, their tendency to fight no matter what. Like, they're not a peaceful group of people, of beings. And so the elves don't really like men a whole lot, and that is why, because they remind the elves of Melkor, and they're kind of polar opposites to elves. But they are very strong and favored in the eyes of Iluvatar, I believe. And Melkor fears men too, which is interesting. Yeah. Like, I think there's, with Tolkien, I think there's definitely that fear of the unknown is like a really major thing, or like you fear what you can't be, what you can't have, what you don't know. It's obviously not necessarily about like power. But like, he fears Vanna when she rejects him. He fears Tulkas. He fears everybody. He is a fearful person, but fear often leads to hatred and anger and jealousy and what?
You're just going off the whole like Star Wars stuff.
Oh. Yeah, fear and turning into a Sith Lord. Destroy Darth Vader. But anyways, that's kind of that separation there. So men get to die, but because Melkor hates them and because Melkor has ruined the whole earth and basically like the fall in biblical terms, right? Everything gets ruined, nothing is as it ought to be, it's all soiled essentially. So is the idea of death by Melkor. So instead of being a peaceful, happy, joyous thing that they're looking forward to, everyone fears death. So, yeah. That is essentially the third, what I've been calling chapter, but the third section of the first chapter, the end of chapter 1.
Or is it?
I really do think it is this time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have any other questions? Again, I feel like I talked at you,
know.
but there's so much to say.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of just information. Like, yeah.
Well, and that's, unfortunately, that's why they say, like I said in the first video, the Silmarillion is a book for people who have read it before. And like I said, I haven't read this from cover to cover before. I've read the bits and pieces, and so I'm learning so much. But I can't just, even now, I can't just like read the section and talk about it. Like, in order to get everything that I need, I have to spend like just as much time doing outside research as I do reading it. And I'm still like grazing the surface. I don't know how Tolkien's brain didn't explode. He invented an entire world. Topography, species, their genealogy. I mean, it just blows my mind every time. And that's all there is to say. I hope you guys liked this video. I'm so sorry it was really long. I'll try to edit it down. But please don't forget to hit like, because it's very encouraging and it shows me that there are possibly more than just 13 people watching something that I've spent 6 hours doing. And so far I think that's our average for these videos, is like 13 people.
Well,
someday when we have more of a following, there will be more people watching it retrospectively. But yeah, don't forget to like. Please, if you haven't already subscribed, give us some feedback. I love feedback. I want to know how we can improve this for you guys. We're still very much learning the ropes, and you guys come first. So please let us know what you need or what you want to see. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.